All right, everyone. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar today, hosted by Corporate Essentials in conjunction with All Hazards. We're going to talk today about returning to the workplace safely and how you can make your workplace more secure and safe. My name is Lisa Demore, and I joined Corporate Essentials. I apologize. What is going on here? My name is Lisa Demore, and I joined Corporate Essentials in 2017. I bring to you today a diversified understanding of employees and work environments from a variety of industries. Those industries include technology, finance, communications, healthcare, which is where I've worked with Rich very closely, hospitality, and education. And along with me today, I have Rich Morrow. Rich, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be with you today. I've been a consultant with my company since 2008. I do security, safety, and emergency risk planning. I have 20 years experience on the federal, state, and local planning committees. During the swine flu, H1N1, here in New Jersey, I was the emergency management director for one of the largest long-term care facilities, 1,100 bed facility. And we got through that disaster. But, during my travels, I always felt it was important to complete my education through my various roles in safety, security, and emergency management field. I'm a graduate of Rutgers University in criminal justice, and I completed my master's degree in emergency and disaster management.
So before we get into this any further, I want to remind everyone who's joined us today that for participating in this webinar, we have a nice engagement box to send to you. So be sure to respond to the email that will come to you in follow-up. And that way we can ensure that we get your goodies delivered right to your door. Here's what we're going to cover today. Today, we're going to go over the role of employers in providing for a safe and secure workplace. We'll give you a high-level overview of OSHA regulations and some very important reference links. These are the most reputable and comprehensive to follow to date at this time. We're going to talk about the importance of setting policies and procedures for a safe work environment. I like to refer to this as creating a culture of safety in the workplace, which is super important as you create and recreate your office environment again, that you build into it that environment of or culture of safety. We are going to give you an overview of breakthrough technologies for air, surfaces, and the break room in all of your offices. We'll touch on personal protective equipment and how you can keep your employees safe. And again, overall, all of these together create the strategies for creating this culture of a safe office environment. Rich, I know you're going to jump in here and start right at it.
Sure. Okay, so my intention is to provide you with a lot of information in the condensed amount of time that we're spending together today. I'm not going to be able to cover all the aspects of the OSHA 3990 document, but you will receive a comprehensive checklist that highlights all aspects on how to comply with the core concepts that are bulleted on the slide here. As I introduce OSHA 3990 document, I can almost guarantee as a consultant and advisor that many of you maybe never heard of about this resource, the OSHA 3990 document, until you saw it on the webinar advertisement. I will tell you this document is comprehensive and it delineates everything a prudent organization should be doing during this pandemic. Businesses, government entities, whoever you are, this will ensure you do the right thing. I don't expect you to memorize the document. At this time, I'd like to direct your attention to the core concepts associated with 3990 as they are bulleted on this slide. Okay, so you've been a business owner, maybe a CEO, a COO, a manager for quite some time now. Maybe you're new to your role, but now more than ever, you're obligated to ensure for a safe workplace. What does that mean? Do you have a comprehensive safety program? Now, we're not going to be talking about active shooter, fire preparedness, but you still have to worry about those things. We're focused about the COVID-19 comprehensive safety program. Do you have a safety officer? If so, what are their responsibilities? Have you promoted a culture of safety, like Lisa mentioned? Safety is everyone's responsibility. Okay, so do you have a safety officer? The safety officer owns the program and owns the culture of safety throughout your company. The person may be full-time or as needed, depending on the size of your organization. In some cases, the subject matter expert you can call on to mitigate and respond to your business needs. Okay. Now, once you have a safety officer, the next step is to determine where your organization ranks with respect to SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, based on the Occupational Risk Pyramid by OSHA. Some of you have probably never seen this. I never saw it until I read the document for the first time. So what is the Occupational Risk Pyramid? Okay, well, think of it as a scoring mechanism. Low risk. A low risk is a workplace where there's little to no exposure with people to suspect to have an infectious disease. So what would an example of that be? Somebody working from home, or a truck driver driving across the country by himself or herself. Medium risk. These are workplaces where people come into contact with one another. This may be people who are known, not known, or suspect to have an infectious disease, right? Because some people may be walking around, they don't even know they're infected. Medium risk workers include supermarket workers, teachers, retail store workers, office workers, and workers who have personal contact. And let's not forget about our restaurant servers, right? So that's the medium risk category. Then we have the high risk. Now, these are what I call our heroes, right? Or people out on the front lines: healthcare, support staff, medical transport, mortuary workers. And very high risk are those folks in the hospitals that are in the operating room, lab personnel. So that's the scoring. So determine where your business, your organization falls under this risk pyramid is very important as we move forward with the mitigation practices. Does your company conduct routine training on policies and procedures related to infectious disease? What does that look like? Who looks over it? We've sent some links here for you. Take a look at the links, okay? But remember, it's just like an emergency operations plan. You can't use a boiler template and expect it to be compliant or have relevancy to your organization. Training requirements have to be relative to your industry. They can be found on the OSHA website. And again, it needs to be site specific, okay? We provided the link for you. Now, we're going to move on to standard operating guideline for infectious disease outbreak. Is it updated? Is it based on the latest guidance posted by the CDC, the state and local health agencies? If yes, what does it state? Having timely local information and communication is crucial, right? This is all about local awareness. And I'll talk a little more about this when I discuss having a communications plan. Again, refer to the CDC website and the local resources in your community. Okay, this is an important one. This is very new. We're not used to doing this. Are your employees required to self-certify their health status prior to reporting for duty? Refer to the link that we have included here. So let me give you an example of this. You would ask an employee if they experienced symptoms. If they say yes, they have to notify their supervisor. The supervisor says, stay home. Another key question to ask employees are, have you traveled to a restricted state or a country within the last 14 days? If the answer is yes, stay home. And I know a lot of companies are using online portal, so the employee would have to submit this information to their supervisor prior to the start of their shift. And if they answered no or yes to any of the questions, then they don't even make it to the job site. They're told to stay home, okay? All right, we're going to talk about a sick leave policy at this time. Do you have a sick leave policy for all employees? If yes, what flexibility do you allow? Okay, use the word flexibility. Now, federal law does not make a company give paid sick leave. Okay, but you have to give unpaid sick leave and personal time to employees. So if an employee says, I'm not coming into work, I don't care if you don't pay me, you have to comply with that. Now, I recently discussed this issue with a colleague, okay, and this was the scenario. A security officer at a hospital had to take off for 14 days because her son had to be quarantined. The son's teacher tested positive. Now, the security officer in the state of, this happened to be New Jersey, was able to apply for unemployment. And they did. However, the employer could have told her to use her paid time off, but they didn't. So she collected unemployment and she was able to keep her paid time off. This is an example of having a policy that's flexible, a sick leave policy, okay?
I think
All
right
right.
too, what's really important there is the fact that you're touching on not only having the policy, but also being empathetic and understanding to a diversity of employee needs that exists now in the workplace that necessarily did not before, right?
Correct. That is correct. And empathy, flexibility, safety culture, those are all the three core concepts that you're going to hear us probably talk about more than once. All right, so updating your communication plan. Now this topic alone can be a webinar in and of itself, okay? But I highly recommend that you go on the link that we provided, look over the key components of having an updated communication plan. I will tell you, a prudent organization will have a comprehensive communication plan that promotes health and safety. Having this plan opens the lines of communication and, like we said, empathy, and it only increases the trust between management and line staff. So this core concept is paramount and should be continuous, especially throughout this pandemic. We're going to move into the next category of the OSHA 3990, supporting a clean and safe workplace. Now, Lisa's going to talk a little bit more about some of these products, but what you need to be aware of is that there's an EPA registered disinfecting and cleaning product on the EPA website. But there's also other products that you can purchase. Just take a look at the website. The CDC recommends that a company disinfects the touch point spaces frequently to minimize exposure, ensuring people are wearing gloves, using soap and water and disinfecting products. Disinfecting at least 3 times during the shift or during the day, okay? Look at wholesale cleaning supply companies. Many of these companies are selling these products in bulk, so you may have a long-term and money savings advantage, okay? So how are you gonna monitor your employees' compliance, right? So, you know, you walk into places, you see, are people wearing their masks? Are they wearing their gloves when they're cleaning? Who's gonna monitor that? And how will it be conducted? Again, it starts with your safety officer, but what? Communicating that culture of safety so everybody's on the same page, everybody's taking ownership, and everybody's doing their part to keep the environment safe. And one thing I will recommend is ensuring that your inspections are documented for compliance purposes. So when you say, well, when was the last time the bathroom was cleaned? I don't know, you know? And, you know, we're not seeing consistency when I do my risk assessments of cleaning schedules sometimes. So you have to make sure if you're doing it at one building in your organization that the cleaning schedule is across the board the same, or else you're going to open up yourself to a problem if there's an outbreak, okay? Installing protective measures, okay? What we're talking about here is layered security and safety protective measures. Just adding a layer of safety and security in your company. Are you installing these protective measures? These may include a physical barrier. What are you seeing now? We're seeing like the plexiglass, right? High efficiency air filters, purifiers, negative pressure ventilation, which we're not really going to discuss today because that's more for the healthcare and hospital setting. But all these things to maintain, you know, a safe work environment. Now, to improve air quality and ventilation, the CDC, recommends the installation of the high efficiency air purification, which what it does is it circulates the air to remove some of the particles of COVID-19. And as a matter of fact, Lisa, yesterday I had the opportunity to take a look at the only air purifier on the market that uses an exclusive combination of technologies. This machine captures 99.97% of particles and as small as 0.01 microns. So a
Yeah.
very nice machine, Lisa. And I think actually this is your slide.
Yeah, no problem. That's no problem. Thanks, Rich, for touching on all the importance or the high level of importance around the policies and procedures that will really help to not only guide people, but to prevent some of the questions or the inequalities that could otherwise happen in the workplace. So after we, have gone over those, I want to jump in a little deeper into how this actually really will impact our day-to-day in an office environment. So when we think, let's think about things that we take for granted, starting with the air. Up until recently, we all didn't think much about the air we breathe, right? I know I didn't, at least. And so as we know now, air purification and surface sanitization are really critical components. They're critical components in the office environment, in warehouses, in break rooms, environments. And the Beyond Guardian Air Unit is really a superior air purification and sanitization system, as Rich touched on. The reason being is it's better than just HEPA filtration. It uses a combination in Active Pure technology, which is proprietary technology that was developed with NASA. It uses that filtration in combination with ionization, germicidal UVC lights, and carbon filters. And as a result, it removes 99, as Rich said, 99.99% of bacteria, viruses, germs, odors, what's called VOCs or volatile organic compounds, mold, fungi, and MRSA. This has been proven. There are efficacy studies on units like this. And so if you'd like more information or the efficacy studies, please be sure to let us know. But what's really nice about units like this is that they're portable, and the portability allows the user in the office to move these machines where they're actually needed. You can have some that stay fixed, but move others around either into a conference room or a larger meeting room where people will be spread out. Each unit purifies and sanitizes up to 2,000 square feet, and it's super quiet. But what I say I like best about air purification and sanitization that you can actually see is exactly that. When people can see it happening, they not only know it's happening, so it makes them naturally feel safer. It makes them feel safer in their environment, and in reality, it makes them much safer. So that's the information in regards to what you can do in your workplace regarding the air. When we get to the next point of concern in the office are high touch surfaces. So when we think about high touch surfaces, we think about places like shared touch screens, the coffee maker, the copier machine, door handles, elevator buttons, the water cooler. This nanoseptic film is actually a material that you can put onto these high touch surfaces. It actually uses, there's no poison, there's no metals or chemicals. So when we think about all of the environmental reasons why we want to minimize as much of that as possible and the sustainability, this is definitely a great opportunity for these high traffic public touch point areas in your office. And what happens with this film is that light in the environment actually reacts with the film, and it creates a powerful oxidation reaction that then eliminates all the contaminants on that surface. And it can be changed out over time as it needs to be replaced according to manufacturer guidelines. So after we've talked about the air and surfaces, let's talk about what's most important and near and dear to me. The most, I know the people that I work with, I always say you have to really think about what matters to them, and they need to be made to feel safe. So let's start with the importance of having touchless and mobile sanitizing stations throughout your office. You want these by all entranceways, you want them around the break room, you want them in hallways through high traffic areas. And then if your office has been sort of re-engineered, or if you've rethought your office, put them in your separate department units or team units as well. In addition to sanitizing stations, you're going to want to have signage up. You want signage up because, as we all know, months ago, yeah, it was top of mind, but now we've sort of adapted and we're much more comfortable, but we really can't be and shouldn't be more comfortable. So you want signage up to remind your team, your visitors, your guests, your patients. You want signage to remind them to not only sanitize, but to also wash their hands frequently. I feel like I say that 10 times a day, probably more. Like, wash your hands. It's simple soap and water that will just keep this under control and allow all of us to, continue to really work happy and safely. So put that signage around your offices. Next, we want to think about PPE. PPE, as we all know now, is personal protective equipment. And when it comes down to personal protective equipment, you'll want the standard requirements for your people that work in your office and employees that work outside of your office, meaning they go to see clients, customers, and others. And so not only having the required gear available, such as gloves, masks, regular 3-ply masks, as well as N95 and KN95 masks, protective eyewear, gowns if applicable, bouffant or hair coverings, and booties. These are ways to make, again, employees feel safe or safer, as well as the people that you're serving. They then see that you take safety and security of delivering products and services to them in a safe manner. To this point, though, you can't just have gloves available. Like, my hands are pretty small. Like, you put out large gloves, that's really not going to do me very much good. They'll probably fall apart. Or for someone who has really big hands, if you put out small gloves. So make sure that you not only have these products available, but that you have them available in a variety of sizes and fits, because that's an important component. And I know Rich is going to touch on it later in this slide, to making sure that your people are protected. Now, as we know, PPE is hard to come by. Right now, it's a little bit easier because people have sort of stockpiled a bit. And if you haven't, you want to. So you want to designate a storage area in your office to not only have all of the PPE for now, but plenty for later. Because as we all know, should a second wave or panic, if you will, happen, if a second wave or panic happens, you want to have enough supplies that your business isn't forced to shut down or not operate in an adaptive way by having what you need on hand. And if it means someone who needs a mask to wear home on the train, you want to be able to give them that mask to wear home on the train. Because remember, again, they're your employee, they work with you, and you want to do what you can to help keep them safer and more secure in today's environment. Rich, you want to touch on the next 2 points here? You just have to unmute yourself. You just have to unmute yourself, Rich. Sorry. You're still not unmuted. Well, either way, I'll go on with the next couple of points. What's important here is when Rich referred to earlier, the occupational hazard pyramid. So on that occupational hazard pyramid, once you know what your level of sort of risk is, you want to make sure that you have the mask fitting properly, that it's covering your nose and mouth. Again, when we talked about this culture of safety in the office place, you need everyone actually reminding people that aren't wearing their mask properly to wear their mask properly. It's for everyone's safety. And although it might not be a risk to me, I may be on low risk, someone else who takes care of grandma or has, Aunt Sophie living in the house that's really old, you want to be cognizant of other people's feelings and circumstances and situations. So yeah, please be sure that you are wearing your PPE and that your employees are wearing their PPE properly. The next thing to think about is what's called doning and dofing, and that has to do with the proper application and removal of PPE equipment. And so please make sure that people understand how to take off gloves. Gloves should be taken off from the wrist and pulled out and disposed of. And there are links here that show various PPE solutions and how it is safest to remove those from use and dispose of them properly. So after we talk about keeping our people safe, let's get into what really keeps them happy. And so if we think about what keeps people happy, it's about keeping your office culture fueled and fed and nourished and energized throughout the day. You know, when COVID first came out, I participated in a lot of meetings with other companies, as well as on New York IFMA and on various other webinars. And the thought process was like, you know, oh, we're not going to bring in any food or drinks. We're just going to get rid of everything except water. Well, if you think about that, like what kind of sense does that actually make? Because the objective is to keep people in, because if you keep them in, there's two big benefits. One, you limit their contact with other people in the outside world. And so, you know, therefore, all day long, they're much safer in not having come into contact with people at the corner store and at the coffee shop and going to buy bottles of water. And also, we all know what the new elevator situation is like. And that new elevator situation, not only do you not often want to get into one that a bunch, you know, three other people or four other people are in, you don't want to get in one after they even have gotten out because of air quality. So employees naturally want to limit the amount of times they need to go up and down. And so providing for them in the office in a safe way, their coffee and their water, and as well as food, is super important and helpful in making them feel more comfortable, most importantly, and absolutely makes them safer. Some of the options that are out there now today are top brewers, top waters, and top juicers. These are all brewing machines or beverage machines that are really elegantly designed to fit into all aesthetics. But really what's most important about these machines is it's like having a barista at the touch of everyone's own fingertip. So through downloading the app on either your iPhone or Android, users can brew their coffee from the safety of their own phone. The Total One by Confection allows also for a downloadable app that coffee can be you can scan a QR code and or brew the coffee in a touchless manner, as do the following three water solutions or water and beverage solutions. I know I get sick of just drinking plain old water, but I know the importance of being hydrated. And so allowing your employees to have the access to a variety of hydration is super important and can be done in a very safe way and environmentally friendly way in the office through either the top water, the top juicer, a bevy machine, which provides both sparkling and flat, sugared and unsweetened beverages, as well as the mix machine. These are all single serve hydration station options that you should consider not just having in your break room, but in some other locations throughout the office. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, traffic, and people have put employees in cohorts and, you know, new cohorts and rotating days. And when you think about, you know, people and employees, you know, employees are people, and it's normal to want to interact with others. So, you know, although we want to give people the opportunity to engage, we want to do it in a safe way. And so again, providing employees, in addition to the beverages they have available to them, with grab and go meals is a really thoughtful as well as realistic approach to keeping your employees safer and limiting their physical contact with others. There's a lot of catering out there available for grab and go meals, as well as individually packaged snacks and drinks. We recommend that you put a multitude of hydration stations and snack bars where you have a sort of a sample, like you see here on the screen, a sample of various snacks that people can grab and go and not have to all go into one primary break room area. And in addition to all of the air and surfaces and food and drinks that you want to have in the office to keep your people nourished and hydrated and fueled and feeling good about not only the culture of their office, the culture of safety, it's all sort of tied in there together. You can also have, on-site attendance. And the benefits of on-site attendance, there's a multitude of benefits. I'm just going to touch on a few of those. Realistically, one of the things that, one of the responsibilities that you can have these on-site attendants do now today is go around and be cleaning and wiping down not only the surface areas in your break rooms and, doors and light switches, chairs in a break room or shared chairs, shared tables, even if they're spread apart, they're shared surfaces that people use throughout the day. So on-site attendants can provide you with the people you need that your other employees can feel safer because they see things being cleaned throughout the day. I'm just checking the notes here and the chat screen. If anyone has any questions or anything further, feel free to put it in the Q&A in the comments, and we're going to address it here coming up in the questions. So throughout this time today, we provided you with an overview of the resources that are reliable resources for you to provide a safe and secure workplace to your employees. The OSHA 3990 is really your go-to guide, and it's your go-to guide for the reasons that Rich touched on, as well as it's your go-to guide because OSHA is broken down in an industry-specific way. As you heard me mention earlier in this webinar, I worked closely with Rich in hospitals, hospitality, and other healthcare environments. And those are always the go-to documents for those types of spaces, as well as in the education environment. You want to set policies and procedures so that when these situations arise, they've already been clearly defined. And in addition to that, you want all of these things really. You want these in place because you not only want your employees to feel like you care about them, you want them to know that you care about them, and you really want to create what we talked about, again, that culture of safety, that culture of caring, and that just office culture that's part of the office place today. We touched on breakthrough technologies for the air, surfaces, and for fueling your teams, and PPE. But what really I also, in addition to all of this, lean on us. We're happy to be a resource to you in navigating what you need to know in addition to this, in answering your questions specifically. Rich truly is a subject matter expert when it comes to policies and procedures and writing risk assessments for corporations, hospitals, and schools, not only here in New York and New Jersey, but across the country. And so don't hesitate to reach out to him. You will all have access to these links as well and to his contact information in a follow-up email that you'll receive. And here's my contact information. I'm happy to help you out as well, answer any and all questions you might have, point you in the direction for what you don't need, for what you do need. And if you don't need it, I'll let you know that too. And to that point, if it's something that Rich or I cannot help you with, we surely know a resource that can. And that's really also what's super important right now, that you're astute in who you deal with. And dealing with a company that has longevity in dealing with the workplace and with employees is very important. So let's check out if there's any questions or thoughts that anybody has. Please post those in the questions now and we'll take a look. And before we go, be sure that you respond to the email that'll be sent to you in follow-up. I want to be sure that we stay in touch with you, that we help you as you need help, but more importantly, that you get those goodies delivered to your door. I'm checking out the questions here and I don't see any posted at this time. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Again, I'm Lisa with Corporate Essentials and Rich Morrow with All Hazards Associates. We thank you for joining us and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.